Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access is out now on Steam, GOG Store, and on Stadia. Now that we've all got tadpoles in the brain, let's go through some initial tips and tricks to get you started on your journey. Also, as a really quick side note, I've tried to avoid as many spoilers as possible so that I don't ruin anything for you guys. So let's get into it. Now, before we get started, today's video is sponsored by you. Bet you didn't see that coming. If you go on to enjoy this video, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to me. It really helps out this channel. And we also have plenty of Baldur's Gate 3 content planned to come out in the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye out for that as well. Now let's get into it. Firstly, Baldur's Gate 3 is based off Larian's version of the 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, so you will see a lot of daunting things initially like dice rolls, cantrips, proficiencies, skills, abilities, all sorts of shenanigans. Initially, this may go way over your head, but don't panic. Even if you've never heard of D&D before, rest assured this will eventually make sense, and just make sure you read some of the tooltips as you continue to go. You can still enjoy the game thoroughly with having absolutely no idea what any of these things mean. Exploration tips. You can press the left alt key at any time to see everything that you can interact with, like corpses that are dead and various things that you can open. This won't highlight everything that you can see, so it's still a good idea to just have a bit of a look around, see what else you can find, but it's a good idea to just hold the left alt key down as you wander around the world. As you do find things, just make sure you pick everything up. Like, I think that goes without saying with any game like this, just pick absolutely everything up. As a quick side note, each of your party members will have their own carry weight, so you can spread the weight across your 4 party members, and you can also send things to your camp so that you're not actually carrying them out on your journey if you want to keep them for later. It's also worth mentioning to experiment with the environment around you. Throw things, stack things, jump over things, and always have a look at the map and make sure that you have explored every area that you can. There is a lot of verticality in the map layout in Baldur's Gate 3, so you can jump across ledges or jump down or jump up to various areas and go and explore different directions, which is very valuable to do. And the best way to tell if there is an area you can do this is by checking the map. In the UI itself, you will see both actions and spells for each character. All the actions are the same per character, but the spells will obviously be different depending on your class races that you go for. This actions bar here is where you trigger things like jumping and hiding to initiate stealth, so it's a good idea to familiarize yourself with the actions that you can do here. In D&D and in Baldur's Gate 3, there is a concept of long resting and short resting. Up in the map section, there will be an icon for long rest, which is a campsite, and the short rest icon underneath it. A short rest can be done once per day meaning in between each long rest, and it will replenish all of your character's health as well as some other effects that are class specific. A long rest is basically calling it a night and heading to camp. Camping will replenish all of your spell slots. It will also allow you to change out your spells in the spells menu if you want to put on different spells for your characters, but it will also allow you to chat to your party members, even the party members that aren't actually active with your party at that time. While you're talking to your party about what kind of day you had, you can also dismiss them if you're sick of them and change out the party members that you have. This won't actually make them leave your party totally. They will still be available next time you do a long rest. They'll still be there and you can actually get them back into your party if you choose, but this is how you can switch out your party members. For dialogue checks, you can hover over the check itself and see if you've got any bonuses for what that is. So for example, my character has bonuses to wisdom. If I hover over that, I can see that there are bonuses to a wisdom roll. You may have also noticed in the cutscenes that it pulls you down into the action into a cinematic view. You can actually get out of this view and play around with the world around you like you would in a Divinity Original Sin 2 with the options down in the left-hand corner. Just go to character select and select another character that isn't locked into that conversation, and they can actually move around the game space. You can actually put them right in the middle of the cutscene too and kind of get some weird camera angles with that, but that's just a little bit of a pointer for you there. Character creation tips. As a quick side note, I will have a separate video coming out about character creation, covering everything you need to know about actually creating a character, but just some general tips to get you started, because this is a very deep character creator, especially if you haven't had any experience with Dungeons & Dragons, so there is a lot to take in here. But ultimately, when you are creating a character, I think the first thing you need to start with is the class. The class will really impact the race that you choose, because there are bonuses that you will get for the race that you choose on your ability, so you want to make sure that you pick a class and a race. As a new player, it may be a good idea to start with a cleric. A cleric will be able to heal you and your allies, so if you are worried about healing, that is a good idea to have, as well as a warlock. You could go a warlock that is a fiend, and you will get the Dark One's Blessing, where every time you kill a creature, you will actually get a little bit of health back. So that's another good, valuable thing to have if you're struggling with what to choose in the early days. Now, once you've picked your class, a good thing to pay attention to in the abilities section is this little star that will show next to a particular ability. What this means means is that this character, or this class rather, this is its primary stat. So this will change based on the class that you choose. This is why once you pick, let's say for example, let's go with fighter, we've got a little star here. Now when we go to race, you want to choose a race that has the benefits for this ability, right? We're on a high elf at the moment, their benefit is dex, that's not what we're looking for. We could go to Gith Yankee, they have a strength +2. This fits nicely with what our primary stat is. This is a good idea to check to marry up what class you choose with what race. Once you have chosen your class and race, the next thing I would look at is your background. Even though it's on the first tab, this is the last thing I would look at. This will give you particular proficiency bonuses, so you want to make sure that these aren't overlapping with ones that you have already chosen. If you're looking to be some kind of stealth build, you want to go with the criminal for the stealth proficiency. Something like that is really based on what you're looking to do with your character. Once you have picked your class, there are various things that you can choose from, including cantrips and spells. What cantrips are is they are spells that don't consume a spell slot. So you can use these freely throughout your combat, and each class and subclasses in some cases will have different spells that you can choose from out of the cantrips section. When you choose spells as well, you will have a limited amount of spell slots that you can choose from, as well as the amount of spells that you can prepare for each combat encounter as well. Once you have all of this picked, you will need to choose what skills you want to go with. So based on the character that we have picked here, you can see that we already have a bunch of proficiencies that are already ticked, like our background, allowing us to have that stealth proficiency. We can choose one proficiency outside of this, and this is really based on the playstyle you want to go with and the character you're trying to make. You know, if we're trying to make some kind of stealth fighter here, we could go with sleight of hand. It's really up to how you want to make that character, and it will give you bonuses on checks that occur throughout the game, in dialogue, and as you explore. When you're looking at your abilities, these are your major stats for your character. You can also see that little star next to your major stat. So you want to obviously make sure that this one is as high as possible and you're getting the bonuses for this as much as you can. It's not a bad idea if you're not sure what to do here to just choose the recommended stats. It's not going to send you in the wrong direction. As a baseline, it doesn't hurt to choose the recommended. And also, if you want to muck around with them yourself, I would recommend to have at least everything across the board at 10, because if you go below 10, you will start to get some negative effects to your abilities there. You want to make sure that you're at least even or positive in most of your stats, but the main ones you want to focus on is your primary stat and then your other stats. Another thing that's always good to dump points into is constitution, so you get that little bit of extra health. Then depending on your build, you can choose the other abilities there. After the initial tutorial area, you will run into the origin characters as you explore, and you can have them all join your party, and you can really make up your party however you choose. The only thing that I would 100% suggest, regardless of what build you have chosen, is to have either Shadowheart or a custom cleric in your party. So either yourself as a cleric or Shadowheart. These are the main healers that you can have, and it's very valuable to have a healer so you're not relying on potions all the time, which you will find as you explore, but it's much better to have healers in your party just to keep everyone topped up as you go. Now let's move on to combat tips. Baldur's Gate 3 is a real-time game, except you can manually initiate a turn-based mode even in exploration, and it's really valuable to do this if you're trying to do some stealthy maneuvers. But outside of that, combat is your typical turn-based CRPG with a slight twist. If two of your allies or more have their turn one after the other, you will take those turns together, allowing you to speed up combat a little bit and make multiple actions and kind of plan what you're doing as a group rather than an individual. Now, in a standard combat turn, there are three things you can do. Movement, which is the yellow bar on your UI. This is your available movement and it refills every turn. As a side note, if you want to be able to move a little bit further, you can consume your action with dash, and this will double your movement distance so you can travel much further during that turn. You'll still have a bonus action, but it will consume your action. Speaking of actions, an action is your main task every single turn. So an action could be attacking, using a spell, or one of the various little other abilities that you can do. This is the one thing that you should make sure you are doing every turn. This is your main way of attacking and using spells. You want to make sure you consume your action, which is the little green circle in the UI, every single turn by doing something at least. Every turn you will also have a bonus action, which is basically like a smaller action. You can drink a potion or use some of the other abilities like jumping or hiding or shoving. If I haven't been able to do something with this bonus action, I've often just been shoving the enemies away from me to create some distance, especially when they are up against my ranged characters. It's a good way to create distance, but there is also some spells which can be used as a bonus action as well. I wouldn't necessarily worry if you're not consuming your bonus action every turn. It's really the action you want to make sure you are triggering every single turn. If you have multiple characters that are performing their turns, when you hover over the end end turn option, a little UI pop-up will show how far they have moved, whether they still have an action and their bonus action, which is the yellow triangle left, so you can see to make sure that you have actually used and done everything that you can do for that turn. Now, there is one other thing that may occur outside of your turn, which is a reaction. So something like an attack of opportunity. If a character moves past you, you may take a free swing at them, and there are other reactions that will occur depending on the class that you chose. Other tips for combat, you can dip your weapon in elements, especially fire, to get that extra bit of damage from your weapons. When you do dip your weapon in fire or other elements, you will get an extra dice roll for that weapon with that element type. When you're looking at your weapons, you will see a dice value for their damage output. You can translate this based on what it is. So a 1d6 means it's one 6-sided dice that will be rolled on a successful attack. And with armor, it is a higher armor class, the better the armor is. The higher the armor class, the more chance that the attack will miss, as there is an attack roll based on what that armor class is. So if the armor class is 13 and the enemy has an attack roll and their roll is 12, the attack won't hit. It's either a miss or a hit in D&D. There isn't a resistance in the same way that you would expect in like a Divinity Original Sin, for example, with the armor values. When you're making your actions in combat, it's perfectly acceptable just to attack and not consume a spell slot. Each character that uses spells will have a limited amount of spell slots that can be used in between each long rest, so each day. Make sure that you're only really using up these spell slots on fights that you actually need to use them, and don't waste them on piddly little enemies that don't mean anything, because you do get a limited amount of these per day. Instead, just swing at the enemy or use a cantrip, which are unlimited use spells that you can use multiple times a day. If someone in your party does go down in combat, don't panic. They're not actually dead, they're just down. Now, you can help them up by going over to them and using an action to help them stand back up. This will skip the death saving rolls that will occur, but it is a good idea to do this just in case that they do fail their death saving rolls and they do die. If your main character dies, you will actually have to reload a save. So where possible, it's completely fine to use up your action to help up an ally, and they will actually get a bonus action out of it, and you can use that action to, you know, drink a potion or something like that. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any other tips, tricks, or anything else, please put them down in the comments down below so that we can all help each other out and learn things together. Please follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and on Twitch, where I stream 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, Australian night times. I'm going to be streaming a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 over the next couple of weeks, so be sure to check that out if you are interested. But thank you for watching this video. My name is Norza, and I hope you have a great day.